Sometimes you don't know what you got until it's gone. And Baker Mayfield and the Browns, well, they might feel that pain in the coming months. Plus, Trevon Diggs, overrated, and Andrew Whitworth's new role.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, NFL fans, and welcome in to another edition of Locked On NFL. I'm James Rapien. No Tony Wiggins this week, and we wish Tony the best as he continues to work through some medical issues. He is doing well, just had to do some testing. So you're stuck with me for the next 25 minutes or so on Locked On NFL. The good news is for late June episode, we're loaded, and we have a lot, and we're going to start with Baker Mayfield on today's show, because Baker Mayfield and the Browns, we get it. It's heading for a divorce. He demanded a trade. They went after Deshaun Watson. They landed Deshaun Watson. The hearing and the trial and all of those things with the NFL and Watson, that's already started by the time you've heard this. And as we record this, we don't know what direction that's going to go in. We do know, according to reports, that the NFL pushing for a full season ban, which has led some to say and think and speculate in this business, well, what about Baker Mayfield sticking with the Browns? If Watson's suspended for a year, Baker could start for them. He's better than Jacoby Brissett. He's better than Josh Dobbs. The other two quarterbacks on the Browns roster outside of Watson would make a lot of sense. And so Baker Mayfield was asked about it today, or on Tuesday, rather, on Soonerscoop.com. And he said, quote, "No, I think for that to happen, there would have to be some reaching out. But we're ready to move on, I think, on both sides," Mayfield said. And that part of it, not shocking, right? Not shocking that Baker Mayfield said that. But when you look at the potential landing spots, it's Carolina, it's Seattle, or it's, I don't know, a Houston. It's stay in Cleveland. It's sign with the Steelers and battle Kenny Pickett out if you get released. Like, there's all these things, and I don't even know if they would do that now that they have Mitch Trubisky as well. The point is, there aren't a lot of obvious logical landing spots for Baker Mayfield as a starting quarterback. So I'm going to rank them today, because to me, the Browns are high up there. In fact, they're second. The only one that's ahead of Cleveland for a landing spot, and I'm going to explain why in just a sec, it's Seattle. Seattle, you got DK Metcalf, you got Tyler Lockett, you have some stability there. You have a coach who has won, and yeah, they might not have the best defense in the world, but there's a structure in place, and there isn't a ton of drama in place, and there's a chance for him to thrive there. But outside of that, staying in Cleveland, to me, is the best option. And I don't think it's realistic. You talk to anyone in Cleveland, it's not realistic. I worked in Cleveland for multiple years, and you talk to anyone up there, they know it's as good as gone. That Baker's gone, it's just done. The organization's moved on, he's moved on, all of those things. But is that in their best interest? You think the Browns are going to be able to win with Jacoby Brissett? They have this win now roster, right? With Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And they go out and trade for Amari Cooper, and they get him for just a 5th round pick. And they have all these different, David Njoku has a new deal. Secondary is really, really good outside of Ward. I mean, they're good. They're really good on paper. They are going to win 6 games with Jacoby Brissett in the AFC North. They will finish the last in the division if he is their starting quarterback for the 2022 season. Not for half of it, for the entire thing, I'm saying. And so if Baker Mayfield is there, well, what are they? Well, I think they're a potential playoff team, certainly contending for the AFC North championship. But that division, everyone talks about the NFC West. The AFC North is the second best division in all of football. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So you're talking about 2 guys that could realistically win MVP. And then the Steelers, as bad as their quarterback situation is with the uncertainty between Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, they have receivers, they have playmakers, they have a great defense. The list goes on and on and on. So, and Mike Tomlin, by the way, never finished with a losing record. So when I look at that, I say, well, if you're the Browns, I know you don't like him long term. There's a lot worse you could do than Baker Mayfield in 2022. And if you are Baker, you look at it and you say, well, I have Amari Cooper. I have running backs. I have a system that when I'm healthy, I can thrive in. I like David Njoku. I have a defense, and I can start. And so sometimes in relationships, in professional relationships, personal relationships, things get so far gone that both sides can't look in the mirror. And if Deshaun Watson gets suspended for a year, the Browns better damn well look in the mirror. And what's looking back at them is Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett isn't winning a damn thing in 2022. Baker Mayfield might not, but he is light years better. I get it. People don't like Baker and they don't like that he's brash. And he's twice the quarterback that Jacoby Brissett is. Now, can Baker have the self-awareness, which is something he's lacked throughout his football career, specifically in the NFL? Can he be mature enough to get past this and stick around in Berea, stick around in Cleveland? That part is tougher. And I think that's the question mark. And I think ultimately the two sides part. If I'm Baker, I'm doing everything I can to get to Seattle because that's the only spot realistically that makes more sense than Cleveland, assuming Watson is suspended for most of, if not all, of the 2022 campaign. And I know that's a big assumption, but it's what the NFL is reportedly pushing for. And so the Baker part of it, both sides might have moved on. Do you want to really go to Carolina, bud? Do you? You're throwing to DJ Moore. You're hoping Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, and you're playing for a coach that's about to get fired if he doesn't perform well, and they don't shock the AFC South or NFC South, this year. Because think about that. Tampa Bay is way better. The Saints, I have questions about their quarterback, but are way better than the Panthers, even with Baker Mayfield. And so it's tough. Tough there if you're Baker Mayfield. If you don't end up in Seattle and you're not staying in Cleveland, where are you going to go where you're actually set up for success? Especially because the Panthers, they're going to have a high pick again in 2023, and there's a pretty good quarterbacks in that draft. Up next, well, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about corners. And Tony Wiggins might be out today, but man, his spirit is here because a certain Dallas Cowboys corner is getting a lot of love, and I'm going to be honest with you, he's overrated. Trevon Diggs. Talking about him, we'll discuss him next. But first, a word from Rock Auto. You want consistency in your life, right? You want consistency, and there's nothing more consistent than rockauto.com because reliable transportation is key. It's key for me. It's key for you. It's key for everybody. And rockauto.com can help you stay on the road for less. They've been in the business for more than 2 decades. And what they do is they get you parts for your car, truck, minivan, anything for less. Don't pay 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts in their quality, the same parts you're going to get at the big box store, the same parts that you're going to get from the car dealership. You can get those for Rock Auto and from rockauto.com for much, much less. So don't delay. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car, truck, and be sure to write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Trevon Diggs, to me, is a good corner. He's not a great corner. He's a good corner. And I'm reading CBSSports.com, and it's offseason time, and it's rankings time, and we do it on this network, and there's rankings. And I thought about it. I was like, maybe I could do my own rankings. And I'm like, you know what? No, because this beef is really just one guy. It's about one guy. Trevon Diggs, man, he looks splashy, doesn't he? 16 games, started 16 games, 11 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 21 pass breakups, 52 tackles. Trevon Diggs is the biggest game-changing, playmaking cornerback in the NFL, and there's no way he's the 5th best corner. I like him, and he put up big numbers, and a lot of you are going to look at the numbers and say, well, yeah, he should be even higher. You can't get beat like a drum. It can't be hit or miss. Defensive coordinators hate that. I'll tell you right now. You know what defensive coordinator hates? A guy in his secondary that's either going to be a home run, grand slam, or get torched. And, well, that's what Trevon Diggs is at this stage right now of his career. He's got great ball skills, no doubt. Former wide receiver, puts up numbers, no doubt about it. But this idea that he's ahead, and he's ahead of guys like Denzel Ward, Kenny Moore, Tre'Davious White, AJ Terrell, Marlon Humphrey. Come on now. Ranked ahead of Jair Alexander, who didn't even make the list. I would take Jair Alexander over him, Marlon Humphrey over him, Denzel Ward over him. And that's the craziest thing is the Denzel Ward one. Not to be on the Cleveland train during this show. I cover the Bengals, and you can hear me every day on Locked On Bengals. Talk to Jamar Chase. And I was like, hey, Jamar, who's the best corner you faced last year? Because he lit the world on fire, lit the NFL on fire, 1,455 yards, 13 touchdowns, was great in the postseason, beat Jalen Ramsey in the Super Bowl. You know it. You've seen it. And he's like, man, Denzel Ward's a stud. Denzel Ward is a stud. And I'm like, interesting. It is. And I covered Denzel for a bit in Cleveland. Didn't work directly with him. Didn't really get to chat with him much. But it was always a health thing that kind of delayed it with him. That kind of got in the way. That was the fly in the ointment. And when he was healthy, I think the Browns view him, and they paid him like it, one of the best corners in the game. And I think he is too. And so I think it's a matter of preference. But to me, and I think to most coaches and most teams in front offices, if you're saying, do you want this lockdown guy that's going to very rarely get beat, and when he does, it's few and far between, and finish with 3 interceptions like Denzel Ward did. Not 11, and he did have 1 pick six, by the way. 3 interceptions against Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and the Bengals. 10 pass breakups, 43 tackles, right, in 15 games. Or Diggs, 11 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 21 pass breakups, but he gets beat much, much more. As important as turnovers are in this day and age, I think you go with the lockdown guy. Now, if you have really quality high-end cover corners and safeties around Diggs, which the Cowboys don't really have, then it's different. Then you can have a guy that's going to take chances and get beat because all the other guys can help make up for it, right? Like if you put a stud safety, let's say Jesse Bates, puts the fire out in the back end, right? And you have Tyrann Mathieu and you have Marlon Humphrey on one side and you want Trevon Diggs on the other. Well, that's different. Now I would take that all day long because he's going to risk it. These other guys are going to hold down the fort and be consistent. But when you're talking about top corner, starting a team, I'm taking all these dudes that Jair Alexander, Denzel Ward. The only 4 ranked ahead of Diggs are Marshawn Lattimore, J.C. Jackson, Xavier Howard, and then naturally Jalen Ramsey. I just don't buy it. I don't think he's up there. Maybe he's top 10. Maybe. For me, I like consistency, right? It's why I like Rock Auto. I like consistency. I know what I'm going to get from Rock Auto every time. Every single time I go to rockauto.com and I'm getting filters or something. And I just don't feel that with Trevon Diggs. Now, he could get there. No doubt about it. I think he could get there. I think they need to put better pieces around him because it's easier to want to take risks. Especially, so I'll do a baseball reference here. If you're the only guy on your team that can hit and you know that, you're going to swing at pitches that you wouldn't necessarily swing at if you had protection around you. Why? Because you know you got to get something going. You got to get something started. And so I'll defend Diggs there because I think that might be part of it too. He's like, man, I gotta get an interception here. Got to get an interception. Okay. It's on Dallas to put a better secondary around him. And if they do that, who knows? But to me, I cannot have him in my top 5. Not my top 5 cornerbacks. And what the hell? I will do a ranking. Jalen Ramsey 1. I think he's still that dude. I would actually put Denzel Ward 2nd. I think he's that damn good. And when he's healthy, he's a lockdown, shutdown type of corner. Xavier Howard 3rd. J.C. Jackson 4th. And honestly, I think it's wild that he's not in this ranking. He's not even in the top 10. He's 11th. Jair Alexander to me, 5th, 6th. Probably Marlon Humphrey. And AJ Terrell could be in there, and all these other guys in the mix too. But those are the top 6. So there you go. You got a little cornerback ranking, spur of the moment. Regardless, though, I do not have Trevon Diggs on there. That doesn't mean that he won't be ever, but certainly not on there yet. And Tre'Davious White, if he wasn't coming off of injury, I would have him over him too. There is a question mark there, but I think we'll get back to elite status. Up next, speaking of corners, Aqib Talib and Andrew Whitworth. They're both retired, both former Rams, both Super Bowl champions, both former All-Pros. They have a new job. and I kind of like the team that's being put together for Thursday Night Football. We will discuss that next here on Locked On NFL. But first, a word from BetOnline. BetOnline is a one-stop shop for all of your sports wagering needs. I've used BetOnline, and I made some good coin during the NBA Finals, and you can too moving forward. How? By signing up for free today at BetOnline. They have everything from boxing, UFC, MMA, to, well, Major League Baseball in full swing. The NHL, yeah, it comes to an end. Hopefully you did join BetOnline in time for that. But the NFL season's right around the corner. In fact, training camp less than a month away, which means you can start wagering on 2022 prop bets, odds, MVP, divisional, and so much more today at BetOnline, where the game starts. Andrew Whitworth and Aqib Talib are joining Amazon's Thursday Night Football coverage, and I love it. I think that this is a great duo to add because they're going to be pretty unfiltered, I think. I know Aqib Talib will. And to me, Andrew Whitworth, when he went to Los Angeles 2017, he started doing some media stuff. It started to get the reps. And the New York Post was the first to report this. But man, I love the team that they're putting together. They got Charissa Thompson, Tony Gonzalez, Richard Sherman, Ryan Fitzpatrick are on the desk in studio. And then you have Whitworth and Talib filling in the cracks there. I mean, that's a lot of heavy hitters. Heavy hitters. And the cool part to me, and I think it's cool for fans too, about the fallout of, all these networks throwing huge money at the Troy Aikman, throwing huge money at Joe Buck, throwing huge money. Tom Brady obviously is in that mix. All these guys getting huge, crazy money to be a broadcast. And Tony Romo a couple of years ago is kind of what set, this ripple effect across the landscape, across the broadcasting industry. It's raising the level of everybody. Like competition makes everybody rise up and level up. And so now these networks are like, all right, who can we get? Who can we add? Who else can we add? What else are we going to do? Because we want to put the best product forward. It rises everybody, makes everybody rise. All these boats now are rising and trying to compete with one another. That's why Fox went and got Brady, right? That's why Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, they go to ESPN for Monday Night Football. Why? Because Monday night had been a revolving door over and over and over again. They're like, all right, I'm done with this. We're going to fix it. We're going to get it right. And they did. And I think Troy Aikman, as of right now, is the best out there. I think he's ahead of Tony Romo. I think they've kind of switched spots. And Tony Romo doesn't predict as much anymore, but it's kind of rough in the postseason. And it's almost like his days during playing for the Cowboys. All right, I shouldn't take shots. I shouldn't. Sorry, Cowboys fans. Tony isn't here. I'm gonna do it. But my point is, I don't think it was the best stretch for Tony Romo as a color analyst. And so can he redeem himself now? I think Aikman got really motivated by everyone crowning Tony Romo after a couple of years, and it's shining through. And that's the part that I really like. I think it's exciting. These teams, these broadcasting teams, these news organizations, they pay all this money for the broadcast, but for years they weren't throwing, and they were putting huge money, but now they're willing to throw whatever at it to get their person, to get who they want, right? Amazon adding all of these future Hall of Famers. Think Tony Gonzalez, Hall of Famer. Richard Sherman, future Hall of Famer. Andrew Whitworth, future Hall of Famer. Aqib Talib, I don't know about that, but still all pro, right? Like you're adding all these dudes that are awesome. Charissa Thompson has been in the game for how long now as the host? Makes a ton of sense. Spending money to do it. And so what is that going to result in? That's going to result in a better product for you. And that's the part that's exciting for the consumer, for me as a consumer. And that's the part that I think we all win on. And it's exciting. But honestly, it's like do you think the Browns, I do a football analogy. Do you think the Browns trade for Deshaun Watson if Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson aren't in their division? No, it's competition. They're looking up. They're like, man, Lamar is light years better than Baker. Joe Burrow's head and shoulders, literally and figuratively, better than Baker. Ain't no way. There's no way that with the third best quarterback in this division, we're going to be able to compete. And you might argue that they still have the third best, but they got a guy that in their minds could be first. And so that's why they make that deal. That's why they sell their soul. That's why they go through all of this drama and give him the fully guaranteed money and all of those things. Is the competition part of it. How are you going to be able to compete? And that's what's happening with all these networks. How can you compete? And so I love it. I think it's fun. I think it's fresh. I think it's going to be really cool to see all these different broadcast teams essentially go head to head. And there'll be favorites. There'll be interesting ones. There'll be, I'm really excited to see what Monday night brings. I'm excited to see what this Thursday night Amazon package is going to look like. And I'm excited for football. And football just a couple of months away. Training camp less than a month away. I'm excited for that most of all. And I'm also thankful that you made Locked On NFL today your first listen. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Check us out on YouTube, by the way. We got to get this YouTube growing here on Locked On NFL. So check us out because you're getting coverage from every which way, from Peacock and Williamson to all of our NFL channels and our daily Locked On NFL podcast as well. For Tony Wiggins, who will be back next week, I'm James Rapien signing off for now right here on Locked On NFL.